In this episode, we turn our attention to green recovery. Over the next 2 or 3 years, trillions of dollars worth will be invested by governments around the world in reviving their economies post-COVID-19. If this money is well spent, ensuring low carbon, nature restoring prosperity, the planet has a real chance of avoiding runaway climate change and ecosystem collapse. What can governments do to support a green recovery? First and foremost, they have to build back their economies better. But how? By aligning all economic activities being built back with long-term emission reduction goals, particularly through investing in low-carbon and decentralized electricity supply systems. It is of cardinal importance to note that unchecked global environmental emergencies, such as climate change and biodiversity loss, could cause social and economic damages far larger than those caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, and which will persist long after it ends. The second item that all governments worldwide have to engage in is to accelerate transitioning to low-carbon technologies. Post-crisis recovery programs present real opportunities to more closely align public policies with climate objectives and limit the risk of locking in carbon-intensive infrastructure in economic activities. Stimulus packages that are being offered by governments can be designed to orient investment towards sectors and technologies that can accelerate the transition to low carbon technologies. The third imperative is that all governments have to collectively strengthen biodiversity protection. It is infinitely important to state here that biodiversity loss is a key driver of emerging infectious diseases, as well as posing a variety of other growing risks. Therefore, investing in the conservation, sustainable use, and restoration of biodiversity can help to address these risks while providing jobs, business opportunities, and other benefits to society. In detail, this can be expressed as follows. Biodiversity underpins current and future human health, well-being, and economic prosperity. Yet, it is being destroyed at an unprecedented and accelerating rate, with 25% of all plant and animal species now threatened with extinction. It is therefore critical that countries integrate biodiversity conservations into their COVID-19 response and economic recovery plans. Protecting biodiversity is vital for avoiding the next pandemic. Close to 3/4 of emerging infectious diseases in humans come from other animals. Land use change and wildlife exploitation increase the infectious disease risk by bringing people and domestic animals in close proximity to pathogen-carrying wildlife and by disrupting the ecological processes that keep diseases in check. The economy and human well-being also depend on biodiversity for food, clean water, flood protection, erosion control, inspiration for innovation, and much more. Over half the world's global domestic product is moderately or highly dependent on biodiversity. The ongoing decline of biodiversity, therefore, poses important risks to society. Investing in biodiversity as part of the COVID-19 policy response can help to minimize these risks while providing immediate jobs and economic stimuli. In order to facilitate green recovery, biodiversity loss and climate change must be addressed together as part of a broader green and inclusive recovery. Governments can take the following steps to integrate biodiversity considerations into the COVID-19 recovery plans that would drive the transformative changes needed to halt and reverse biodiversity loss. Ensure that COVID-19 economic recovery measures do not compromise biodiversity. Maintain and strengthen regulations on land use and wildlife trade. Attach environmental conditionality to bail out payments to companies. This would drive sustainability improvements. Screen and monitor stimulus measures for their biodiversity impacts. Furthermore, governments should scale up investment in biodiversity conservation and sustainable use of ecosystem services by setting biodiversity spending targets for COVID-19 stimulus measures and recovery plans, promoting jobs in biodiversity conservation, sustainable use, and restoration of ecosystem services, engaging businesses and the finance sector for a biodiversity positive recovery. Governments should also put a price on biodiversity loss by reforming subsidies harmful to biodiversity, scaling up economic incentives for biodiversity. It is also cardinally important for governments to foster cross-sectoral and international collaboration by adopting and strengthening the so-called One Health approach, developing, adopting, and implementing an ambitious global biodiversity framework. It is infinitely important that the recovery be inclusive. Poverty is rising and people everywhere are worried about the future. The pandemic has heightened social pressures and increased the inequalities that existed before COVID-19. Now is the time to intensify efforts to address these challenges. The world must continue to provide unprecedented support to save lives and keep people working and to promote education. At the same time, the world must prepare for an inclusive and transformative recovery together, one that puts people's well-being at the center. This means concerted efforts in 1. Addressing inequalities in education. 2. Supporting people, jobs, and small businesses. 3. Closing the digital divide. And 4. Working together on health, tax, and trade. We at Environ Campus are ardent supporters of jump-starting green recovery in this manner. If you have not yet subscribed to Environ Campus, please do so, and you will be notified each time we post a new video.